All right, Derek, I was talking with some of your players earlier, and looking back to the past, whenever Maryville had an early exit to the season or a loss in the state championship game, it seems like you guys go at it even harder in the offseason to address what were the issues that made the loss happen. What have y'all done this offseason to kind of get Maryville back to that state championship stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun to watch this senior class compete and work in the weight room and in spring practice. So obviously you always think about last 2 years you got beat by Oakland, and 2 years ago we got worn out. So the goal was to close the gap, give ourselves a chance to win that game this year if we were able to get there. And we did that. 17-14 going into the fourth quarter, we had the ball, a chance to take the lead. I'd like to have some calls back in that game.
Yeah.
Just a couple. That was literally came down to like 2 or 3 plays. But we had a chance to win. I was so proud of that team for giving us a chance to compete. Now you look forward to this year. You lose a ton of talent and really good football players off last year's football team. A lot of character, a lot of leadership. But that's what makes us so much fun. And at Maryville, every year, Jesse, we've got guys that they've played freshman their freshman year. They might have played JV, sophomore, and junior year. They understand that delayed gratification piece, which our society doesn't seem to understand anymore, and that we try to instill in them. And so we'll have guys who understand our system. They're physically ready to go, and now it's their turn. And so nobody knows them yet, but they're going to take the bull by the horns and have an all-state senior year. We have that every year. Somebody nobody knows about. They start their first year as a senior, and they're all-state. And so that's what I'm super excited about. It's going to happen in the secondary. It's going to happen at receiver, probably offensive line as well. So because we returned some offensive linemen, 2 really good running backs, and Noah Vaughn and Gage Ledoux returned most of our front 7 on defense. And so we're really excited about a lot of those seniors, too, at receiver to step up and make plays.
With Matthew Clemmer at quarterback coming over from William Blount for 1 year, you look back, Maryville, historically, y'all have had guys that you can work with year after year and kind of get them into where they need to be mentally to handle that position. How have you guys not tried to expedite the position, but get him ready?
Yeah, so, he's a really smart kid and big, strong kid, can throw it a mile, and so, he's athletic as well. So he's done a great job of figuring out what we're going to do and what we want to do. And so really excited about him and such a good kid. We only got 2 quarterbacks on the whole roster. So you got Matthew's going to be a senior and Casey Cobble's a sophomore. And so those 2 guys are getting a ton of reps. I don't think we've ever just had 2 quarterbacks on the whole roster, but they're getting a ton of reps. And so that's a good thing. It's easy to figure out how to plan for who's going to take, those snaps at practice. But at the end of the day, we've got to find our best 11, and so we've got to put Matthew and our offense in a position to be successful, figure out what they're really good at and kind of build around there. So, it helps having offensive line and Noah Vaughn back, to kind of give us a staple. But we always want to be balanced. And so we're going to be throwing the ball down the field and doing things that where our defense just can't focus on one thing or the other.
You mentioned it a few minutes ago with some of the new guys at wide receiver. Who will be some of the new faces that we get acquainted with this fall?
Well, so legitimately there's about 6 or 8 guys, seriously, that are competing for 2 or 3 spots. And so, some of those seniors like Caleb Dunford, you've got Eli Cobble, DJ Dillons, so Zeke McCoy, so there's 4 or 5 more, not to keep your video going on forever, that deserve to be recognized that we're counting on. Cannon Johnson, who played some corner, had to play a little bit of receiver, So there are some competition there. Football's a meritocracy, the best will play. And that's our job as coaches to figure out who those best guys are. There's some guys that I didn't mention that may very well find their way into the game early on in the year. That competition may be going for 4 or 5 games even, so we'll see how that goes. But there's some good talent there. It's just a matter of who's going to win the job. We don't have one guy like a Markel Fortenberry come back where it's going to be him.
Last thing with you, and Noah Vaughn's been a young man at running back who's been really fun to watch and evolve from his underclassmen years till now. And just wondering if you could put into words what all went into that for him to develop the way he has.
Well, Coach Adam Hendricks deserves a lot of credit for he's Noah's position coach, and working with Noah and teaching him how to play running back. And Noah is very talented and gifted. He had a lot of that already, but he's been willing to. He does more than just take the ball and run. Like he does such a great job of setting up blocks and positioning himself to where he can make a cut, and instead of getting 7 yards or 10 yards and a first down, he has a chance to score every time he touches it. And so he's worked really hard. Noah's a guy who his effort at practice is unmatched. Like we've never had to get on to him to practice hard, and so that's been a huge thing for our whole team, because when one of your better players practices with that kind of intensity, it kind of rubs off on everybody else. And so he deserves all the accolades that he gets because he's worked for it. So, but we're going to rely on him even more this year. He's talented enough to split out receiver. He's good enough to run a deep ball and catch it for a touchdown. And so it's our job to move him around and make sure that he's touching the ball enough for us to win a game.